Hey, so tonight we're diving into a corner of history that most textbooks barely mention. It's about the lives of women who worked in Victorian brothels. Yeah, I know it's not your typical bedtime story, but trust me, it's fascinating. This is a piece of history about real women. Women who were just trying to survive in a world that didn't offer them many options. And hey, if you enjoy these kinds of stories, ones that peel back the layers of forgotten history, go ahead and tap that like button or subscribe. It really helps the channel. Oh, and let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is there. It absolutely blows my mind how people from all over the world are tuning in to fall asleep to this. All right, get comfortable. Find that cozy spot. Take a nice slow breath in, let it out, and just let your body sink into whatever you're lying on. Because we're going back to London. The year is 1857, right in the heart of the Victorian era, and trust me, by the time we're done, you're going to be real thankful for that comfy mattress you've got. Congratulations, you've just woken up in Victorian London. It's early morning. Maybe 5, maybe 6 a.m. You're not in a fancy four-poster bed. Nope. You're lying on a mattress stuffed with horsehair. It's lumpy. The thin wool blanket pulled over you offers barely enough warmth. The sheets haven't been changed in, well, probably a week if you're lucky. They smell faintly of cheap lavender water that almost covers the musty dampness beneath. Your room chilly. Coal for the fireplace is rationed strictly, especially in the mornings. The walls are lined with faded floral wallpaper, peeling at the corners where dampness has started to seep through. There's a smell. Oh, there's always a smell. A mix of coal smoke from the endless chimneys outside the muddy, sewage-soaked air, drifting off the Thames, and something sweeter, sharper. The chemicals from perfumes and powders. The tools of the trade. You're in a room at the back of a brothel, right in the Haymarket district. Not the worst place, not by a long shot, but definitely not one of the luxury establishments either. You share this small room with another woman. She's still asleep on the narrow bed opposite yours. Her breathing is steady, peaceful. The old metal springs beneath you creak as you shift, stretching out your legs. You point your toes, feeling that brief tension in your muscles before relaxing again. Honestly, it's a small comfort, a reminder that for now, you're alive. You're here, outside London's already stirring. The clip-clop of horses' hooves on cobblestones echoes down the narrow streets. The rattle of wooden cartwheels bounces against the buildings. You hear a voice distant but clear. Fresh bread. Someone shouts. A baker's boy making his rounds. This is your life. Here they call you Mary. Not the name your mother gave you, but the name you go by now. You've been in this house for nearly 2 years, which means, believe it or not, you're considered something of a veteran. You've seen plenty of girls come and go. Some managed to move up to better houses, richer clients. Some left entirely vanishing back into the poverty they came from. Others, well, got sick, didn't recover. You sit up slowly. The blanket falls to your waist. Your bare feet hit the cold floorboards, and you shiver, reaching for the wool shawl draped over the bedpost. Wrapping it around your shoulders, you feel that brief, lovely rush of warmth. That's better. Snug. On the small table between the two beds sits a ceramic pitcher and wash basin. The water in it. There's a thin layer of ice on top. Winter in London doesn't mess around. You crack the ice with a fingertip, flinching at the sting of cold, then splash some onto your face. It shocks you awake. Your breath catches for a moment before settling back into a steady rhythm. So, how did you end up here? In this room? In this life? Because here's the thing, the story's probably not what you think. You weren't dragged into this as a child. Some girls were, especially the really young ones, but that's not your story. You weren't seduced and abandoned by some gentleman left pregnant and destitute either, though that was common enough. No, your path was ordinary, mundane even, which in its own way makes it more real. You were a seamstress, a good one too, nimble fingers, a sharp eye for detail. But here's the problem. There were thousands of women like you in London, all fighting for the same terrible jobs. The British Quarterly once said that the life of a dressmaker's apprentice made factory work look like child's play. And they were right. 14, 16-hour days. Sitting in dim light, your eyes straining, your fingers cracked and bleeding from the cold. And for what starvation wages that barely covered rent. Sometimes not even that. You lean back against the wall, letting it support your weight. Roll your shoulders. Breathe in. Breathe out. That's it. Just let some of that tension go. You remember the moment it changed. Perfectly. It was winter. 3 years ago. You hadn't eaten in 2 days. The room you rented back then had no heat. You could literally see your breath while you worked, stitching as fast as you could to finish a blouse that might pay enough for another week's lodging. Your hands were so numb from the cold, you kept pricking your fingers. Tiny spots of blood marked the white linen like some grim little pattern. And then Jane showed up. You knew Jane, worked with her once, but she looked different now. Healthier, well-fed, wearing a decent wool dress, not fancy, but clean, warm, well-made. She brought food, real food, a meat pie still steaming. She sat with you while you devoured it, trying not to look as desperate as you felt. There's a place, she said finally, off Haymarket. Madam's strict but fair. No funny business, no cruelty. 2 meals a day, a real bed. They do medical checks weekly. She paused, studying your face. You'd make in one night what you make in a week here, Mary, and you wouldn't be killing yourself with this. Her hand gestured to the mountain of sewing piling up around you. You didn't answer right away. How could you? You'd been raised right. A God-fearing home. Parents dead. Brothers scattered off chasing work wherever they could. And there you were, starving, freezing, sewing yourself one stitch closer to death every day. That memory settles over you like a heavy blanket now. You feel yourself sinking back a little into the mattress. Your breathing slows again, in, out, just like that. Around you, the house is starting to stir. Footsteps on the stairs. Heavy. Probably Mrs. Winters, the housekeeper. You hear the clatter of coal being shoveled. A fire being stoked downstairs where the men will later gather. And then, the smell of coffee. Real coffee. Not that chicory substitute most folks drink. Another little luxury this house prides itself on. Your roommate stirs. Mumbles something. Rolls over. Lily. That's her name here. Younger than you. Maybe 19 to your 24. Pretty in that delicate way some men like. Auburn hair. Big eyes. Came down from Manchester. Factory girl. The noise of the looms left her half deaf in one ear. It's time to get up. Time to get moving. Because here in this house, routines matter. Mrs. Winters runs a tight ship. And Madam Cartwright Carty, when she's not around, expects everyone downstairs dressed and ready by noon. The day has a rhythm. Mornings are for cleaning, bathing, getting yourself right. Afternoons, a few regulars. The lunch hour crowd, bank clerks, merchants sneaking away for an hour. But nighttimes, when the house truly wakes. For now, though, it's still quiet, peaceful. You stretch again, arms over your head. Feel the pull in your muscles. Your nightdress shifts around your ankles as you move toward the small wardrobe. During the day, it's simple clothes. Nothing fancy. Something that lets you blend in on the street. Because while the brothel itself isn't illegal, public solicitation is. And discretion. Discretion is everything. You pick out a dark blue dress, faded but mended well. Lay it on the bed. Getting dressed is a ritual. Stockings first, then the petticoat. The corset not tight just enough to give you some shape. You move with practiced ease, each motion as familiar as breathing. As you lace your boots, you're already thinking about the day ahead. Tuesdays are usually quiet. Maybe Mr. Phillips, the bank clerk who likes to talk about his stamp collection, will stop by. Or that nervous young man who always gives his name as Smith and never stays longer than 15 minutes. Outside, London gets louder. Kids running past, laughing. A dog barking. A knife grinder calling knives to grind, knives to grind. And you realize this life that so many look down on happens right alongside everything else. The baker still delivers bread here. The coalman still brings fuel. The iceman still stops by. Just another house. Just another day. And that's where we'll pick up next. There's a soft knock at the door. Hot water. Miss, comes a small voice from the other side. It's Betsy, the house's maid of all work. She's barely 13, far too young for the brothel's actual business. Mrs. Cartwright took her in when she caught her begging on the street last winter. Now, Betsy runs errands, helps Mrs. Winters, and sleeps in a tiny room off the kitchen. For now, she's safe. For now. Come in, Betsy, you call. The door opens, and there she is, struggling slightly with the weight of a heavy jug of steaming water. Her face is freshly scrubbed, her brown hair plaited neatly down her back. She sets the jug down on the washstand with a grunt. "Morning, Miss Mary," she says brightly. "Cold one today. Mrs. Winters says there might be snow later." "Thank you. Love you," reply with a smile. "Have you had your breakfast yet?" "Yes, miss. Cook made porridge with treacle, and there's fresh bread too. There's coffee in the kitchen if you want some." Another small mercy of this house regular meals. You've heard of brothels, where the girls barely get fed at all if business is slow. Here, Cartwright knows that healthy girls earn more. Simple math, really. Betsy gives you a little curtsy and disappears back down the hall. You take full advantage of the hot water, splashing it onto your face, your neck, your arms. You let the warmth seep into your skin, driving out the last of the morning chill. It feels good. Human. Like you can face the day now. Face, neck, underarms. The most intimate parts get a quick freshening too. Full baths happen twice a week. Here Wednesdays and Sundays in the big copper tub that gets hauled into the kitchen. Honestly, that's more often than many respectable working women manage. You run a comb through your hair, dark brown, thick nearly down to your waist when it's loose. For now, you twist it up into a simple knot at the back of your neck. Later, when it's time for work, you'll do something more elaborate. Maybe add the artificial hairpiece to give it some extra volume and curl. There's a small mirror on the dresser. It's silver backing speckled and faded, but enough to check yourself. Your face looks better now than it ever did when you were a seamstress. Regular meals have softened the hollows in your cheeks, brought back some color. But your eyes have changed. They're sharper now, more watchful. You've seen things, learned things that the innocent country girl you used to be never even imagined. You shake the thought away. No use dwelling on what's past. Focus. Stay present. That's how you get through this life. You finish lacing your boots, smooth, black, serviceable. Nothing fancy. The key is to look like any other working woman walking the streets of London during the day. Blending in is protection. While brothels themselves aren't technically illegal, street solicitation is. The police mostly leave well-run houses like this one alone, especially when they get their tips from Cartwright. But there's always the risk. Your morning routine includes chores. Every girl has her tasks. Mrs. Cartwright believes in discipline. Idle hands, she says, lead to idle thoughts, and idle thoughts lead to trouble. Today, you're responsible for dusting the parlor and polishing the glasses at the small bar. Simple enough. You glance over at Lily. She's finally stirring, pushing tangled hair out of her face. Morning, she mumbles, voice thick with sleep. Just past 7, you reply. Plenty of time. She yawns, stretching her arms high over her head. Had that dream again, she says, rubbing her eyes. The one about the seaside. Have you ever been, Mary? You think back. Once. Brighton, when I was small. A rare family outing. I'd like to go. Someday, she sighs, her voice wistful. They say the air's different there. Clean. You can breathe proper. It's a common dream among the girls here. Saving enough to get out. Start fresh. Somewhere else. Some actually manage it. Most don't. The money that seems good, better than any other work available to women, has a way of slipping away. Lodging, clothes, doctor visits, a friend in need. It never feels like enough. You will, you say, though you don't know if you believe it. Keep putting something aside, even just a shilling a week. Lily nods, but doesn't answer. You both know how hard that really is. A heaviness tries to settle over you. That creeping weight of knowing how the world works, how stacked the deck really is. But you make yourself let it go. Shoulders drop. Breath in, breath out, nice and easy. I'll see you downstairs. You tell Lily, standing and smoothing your skirt. Don't be long. Mrs. Winters is already stomping around. You know what that means. Lily groans. Yeah, I'm hurrying. You step out into the narrow hallway. Carpet worn thin. Wallpaper faded. The place has seen better days, but is kept clean, always clean. There are 4 bedrooms on this floor, all about the same size. Downstairs are the public rooms, the parlor where customers are received, a small dining room, the kitchen, and the servants' quarters in the back. Mrs. Cartwright's bedroom is on the ground floor, so she can monitor the coming and going of guests. The house itself is tall and narrow, squeezed between 2 shops on a side street. From the outside, it looks perfectly respectable. Clean curtains in the windows, fresh paint on the door. Nothing that screams brothel. No red light, no obvious sign. Customers find their way here through word of mouth, discreet advertisements, or cab drivers who get a small commission for bringing the right sort of gentleman to the door. As you descend the stairs, the smell of coffee grows stronger, mingling now with bread baking and the faint tang of frying bacon. Your stomach rumbles in response. The stairs creak underfoot, familiar comforting. You trail your hand along the banister, worn smooth by countless hands before yours. The house is warming up now. The worst of the morning chill has been pushed back by fires lit in the kitchen and the parlor. You hear Mrs. Winters' voice, sharp, efficient, giving instructions to Betsy. The steady murmur of normal household sounds. Clatter of pots, the whoosh of the bellows blowing on the fire. For a brief moment, it could almost be any household anywhere. You pause at the bottom of the stairs, just breathing. Taking a moment, your body loosens, your breath evens out. There's a quiet kind of peace in this, the rhythm of a house waking up. You turn toward the kitchen. Warm light spills into the hall. You can see Cook bustling at the stove, stirring something. Betsy's setting the table in the corner for breakfast. Mrs. Winters is reading a letter. her spectacles perched low on her nose, her gray hair tucked under her cap. It's an ordinary scene, a snapshot of domestic life. And for now, for this moment, it's enough. The smell of bacon hits you again, and your stomach growls louder. "Morning," Mary Cook says, without turning from her pan. "Sleep well?" "Well enough," you reply, slipping into your usual seat at the kitchen table. Betsy places a mug of coffee in front of you with a little smile. "Porridge is ready, if you want some, miss." You nod grateful. The warmth of the mug seeps into your hands as you cradle it. The rich smell of real coffee, not chicory, not some miserable substitute, rises with the steam. You breathe it in. Safe, warm, fed, at least for now. You help yourself to a generous bowl of porridge, thick and creamy, with a drizzle of treacle, and you tear off a hunk of fresh bread that's still warm from the oven. The moment the spoon hits your tongue, you feel your whole body respond, warmth spreading from the inside out. It's simple, yes. But when you've known hunger, real hunger, this feels like luxury. The kitchen hums with a gentle rhythm. Betsy moves between the table and the counter, refilling mugs, wiping down surfaces. Mrs. Winters occasionally glances up from her letter, muttering to herself and scribbling notes. Cook hums softly, rolling out dough for the evening's meat pies. The other girls filter in one by one. First is Emily, a petite blonde with sharp blue eyes and a mischievous grin. She's been here about 6 months now, quick-witted and popular with the customers. Then there's Sarah, older than most of you, maybe pushing 30, with a no-nonsense attitude and a surprising head for numbers. She's the one Mrs. Cartwright trusts to help manage the books when needed. Last comes Josephine, the newest. Her eyes are red, whether from lack of sleep or quiet tears, you're not sure. She's still adjusting to the life. Everyone goes through it. Some adapt, some don't. Lily slips in, looking slightly more awake than earlier, her hair pinned up hastily, but neatly enough. "Nearly missed breakfast," you murmur, passing her the porridge pot. "Worth it for an extra 10 minutes in bed," she replies with a grin. The coffee, as always, is strong. Real coffee. Another of Cartwright's house rules. She insists on certain standards, and you've come to appreciate it. It's one of the things that makes this place better than most. You cradle the mug in both hands, savoring its warmth, letting the bitter richness center you. Breakfast chatter avoids business. It's an unspoken rule. Instead, the conversation drifts to the mundane. "Did you see the butcher's boy slip on the cobblestones yesterday?" Emily laughs, buttering a piece of bread. "Fell right on his backside, basket flying. Sausages everywhere. Nearly gave Mrs. Simmons next door a heart attack," Sarah adds, smirking. She came out shrieking like he'd committed murder. Josephine manages a small smile, the first you've seen from her today. The normalcy of it. It matters. It's grounding. A reminder that despite the nature of your work, this is still just a house. A home of sorts, where people eat, laugh, bicker, and care for one another. You take another sip of coffee, feeling it settle warmly in your stomach. When breakfast is over, the girls clear their plates, and Mrs. Winters begins handing out tasks. The house runs like clockwork, not just for efficiency, but because Cartwright believes that order keeps chaos at bay. "Mary Parlor and glasses," Mrs. Winters says, ticking your name off a small list, same as usual. You nod, pushing back your chair. The scrape of wood against stone echoes softly. Lily's tasked with dusting the hallway and staircase. Sarah's checking the stock at the bar. What spirits need restocking for tonight? Emily's helping cook with preparation for dinner. The parlor is the heart of the house's public face. It's where customers are first received, where the illusion begins. It's designed to look respectable, not grand, not decadent. respectable with subtle hints of luxury. The furniture is heavy dark wood with deep red velvet upholstery worn a little at the edges but still plush. Heavy curtains of matching velvet are tied back to let in what little gray London sunlight filters through the soot-streaked windows. A few framed landscapes hang on the walls, and just one, only one, classical painting featuring half-draped nymphs. Suggestive, but never explicit. Cartwright's rule. Nothing here screams brothel. A casual visitor might think it's just a private boarding house. That plausible deniability is intentional. Smart. You start with the feather duster. Gentle sweeps over the furniture, the mantels, the window ledges. Then you swap to a damp cloth for the more intricate spots, the curves of the carved chair legs, the molding along the ceiling. It's quiet work, steady. Your hands know the rhythm without thinking. Through the front window, you catch glimpses of the street beyond. A maid beating dust from a rug in the yard next door. A group of boys chasing each other boots, thudding against the cobblestones. A man pushing a cart loaded with coal, calling out his wares. Life goes on. Above, beyond, and around this house, and the work done within it, the city pulses with its own rhythm, its own noise, its own business. You move to the small bar, tucked into the corner of the parlor. It's simple, a cabinet holding glasses and a few bottles of sherry brandy and port. The men don't come here for the drinks, but the ritual matters. A glass of something to smooth the transition, to set the scene. You take each glass in turn. Breathe a little warmth onto it. Polish it with a soft cloth in the slow circular motions. The glass squeaks faintly as it comes clean, catching the weak sunlight in bright glints. The motion is almost meditative, round and round. Your breathing naturally matches the rhythm. In, circle. Out, circle. As you work, the quiet of the house wraps around you. You hear cook humming in the kitchen. Betsy's voice chattering away as she helps Mrs. Winters with the laundry. The steady, familiar cacks and groans of the old wooden floorboards as someone moves upstairs. The mantel holds its usual collection of ornaments. A china shepherdess, a brass clock ticking steadily, a pair of ceramic dogs. You dust each one carefully, placing them back exactly as they were. Mrs. Cartwright notices if anything's out of place. You glance once more out the window. A cab rolls past. A horse snorts. The coal man shouts, "This house, this street, this life, it's woven seamlessly into the fabric of London." People pretend not to see it, pretend not to know. But it's right there, hiding in plain sight. You finish the dusting. The glasses sparkle in the dull morning light. The furniture gleams. The room feels settled, ready. There's the sudden sound of the front door opening, then closing. Heavy footsteps in the hallway. A man's tread. Then Mrs. Cartwright's voice, lower and smoother than when she talks to the girls. "Good morning, doctor. Thank you for coming promptly." "Ah, of course. It's Wednesday. Medical inspection day." You wipe your hands on your apron and set the last glass down carefully. This will take up the rest of the morning. Every week, without fail, the doctor comes to examine the girls. It's one of Cartwright's strictest rules. A house that doesn't care for its girls ends up with disease running rampant, and disease is bad for business. Very bad. The examinations happen in Mrs. Cartwright's private sitting room, which she clears for the purpose. One by one, each girl is called in, checked. Notes are made in the little ledger that Cartwright keeps locked in her desk. You listen now, the familiar sounds unfolding. The low rumble of the doctor's voice. The polite murmurs of Mrs. Cartwright. The slight tension that always creeps into the air on these mornings, not because the doctor is cruel. No, Der Harrison is decent, Professional, mid-50s, graying beard, married. You sometimes wonder what his respectable wife would think of where he spends his Wednesday mornings. But still, it's never pleasant having your body reduced to something clinical, something to be measured, inspected. You hear Cartwright's voice call out down the hallway. Josephine, you're first. There's a slight pause, a shuffle of reluctant footsteps. You tidy the last corner of the bar, then wipe your hands again. Soon, it'll be your turn. And you can't help but wonder, every week, you wonder how many more times will you walk into that room and walk out again with a clean bill of health. Because in this line of work, luck always runs out eventually. Josephine's footsteps fade down the hall, followed by the soft click of the sitting room door closing. For a few moments, the house goes strangely quiet. Even the usual clatter from the kitchen seems subdued. You wipe your palms against your skirts without thinking. It's muscle memory now. You don't love these mornings, no one does. But you know the drill. You've done it so many times, you could probably go through the motions blindfolded. Mary, you're after Lily, comes Mrs. Winter's voice from the staircase. She's always the one who keeps the queue in order. Stern, efficient, fair. Understood, you reply. You head toward the back of the house, where the scullery sits. On Wednesdays, part of the morning routine includes washing your personal laundry things the laundress won't touch. Undergarments, stockings, the cloths you use during your courses, things that don't leave the house. The scullery is cold, its stone floors damp beneath your boots. You pump water from the brass tap into a large basin, adding a scoop of soap flakes. The water foams up quickly, white bubbles shimmering in the faint morning light. You kneel down and get to work. The physicality of it is oddly soothing. Hands in warm water cloth, rubbing against cloth, the simple rhythm of scrub and rinse and wring. The basin quickly turns cloudy, speckled with tiny flecks of dirt soap, and the faint traces of rouge or powder. As you scrub, your thoughts drift. The doctor's visit always prompts it the reminder. The risks that shadow this life. Illness isn't just an inconvenience here. It's a constant threat. You've seen it before. A cough that doesn't go away. A rash that spreads instead of healing. Sores in places too private to speak of aloud. Some girls vanish after one of these Wednesdays, packed off to a hospital if Cartwright thinks it's worth the money. Or they just disappear, gone back to the streets, or worse. So far, you've been lucky. Careful. Cartwright runs a clean house. She insists on certain rules. Insists the men follow them too. Cleanliness. No roughness. No dangerous requests. She charges more for it, and in return, her clients get what she calls a refined experience. It's not foolproof. Nothing ever is. But it's better than most. You wring out a chemise, your fingers flexing with the effort. Muscles in your forearms working strong and capable. Your hands, despite the soap, are still soft. Not the calloused, raw hands you used to have as a seamstress. Another cruel irony of this life. Your hands look cared for, maintained, because men don't want a woman whose hands feel like labor. They want softness, smoothness, and illusion. Once the washing is done, you step outside into the tiny yard to hang everything on the line. The air bites against your damp fingers. It's cold, but dry. Good drying weather if the snow holds off. You clip each item to the line with wooden pegs, fingers moving quickly. Stockings, petticoats, a couple of lace-trimmed handkerchiefs. The yard is barely more than a square of flagstone, hemmed in by high brick walls. But it's open to the sky, and for a few minutes, you just stand there, tilting your face up, breathing in. Is it fresh air? Not really. This is London, after all. The air tastes of coal smoke and river mud, and the faint tang of sewage carried in on the wind. But it's outside air. It's different from the enclosed heat of the house. You let yourself enjoy it for just a moment. The sunlight is thin but real. You close your eyes. Breathe deep. Your chest rises, your lungs expanding fully. This right here, this is a luxury no one talks about. Just standing, just breathing, just being. The back door creaks open. Lily leans out, already wrapped in her shawl. Doctor's finishing with me. You're next, she calls, then pauses, eyeing the sky. Anything interesting up there? You smile. Freedom, clouds. Take your pick. She snorts, shaking her head. Come in before you freeze. Betsy's heating water for tea, and Cook's made those currant buns you like. The thought of something sweet is tempting. But first, the doctor. Inside the kitchen is warm bustling. Betsy moves between the stove and the table, fetching cups and plates. The smell of baking bread mingles with the richer scent of meat simmering for the midday stew. You nod to Mrs. Winters as you pass. She tilts her chin toward the front of the house. He's ready for you. The hallway feels quieter than usual as you approach the sitting room. The door stands half open. You knock lightly on the frame. Come in, comes Dr. Harrison's voice, steady and clipped. The sitting room has been transformed for the examination. Mrs. Cartwright's usual scatter of ledgers and correspondence has been cleared from her writing desk. In their place sits a clean linen cloth, a few glass jars, a stethoscope, and a well-worn notebook. Dr. Harrison stands by the window, washing his hands in a porcelain basin. He's a man in his early 50s, graying at the temples, neat beard, spectacles perched low on his nose. Ah, Mary, he greets, drying his hands. How have you been? Well enough, doctor. No concerns. He nods, scribbling something into his notebook. Good. Let's have a look then. Cartwright is there, of course, sitting discreetly in the corner. She's always present for these, not watching the exam itself. Her chair is turned just so, but there. A chaperone, a witness. The examination is quick, professional. He listens to your heart, checks your throat, your eyes, your skin. His fingers are cool, but not rough. Clinical, detached. Then comes the intimate part. Brief, efficient. His gloved hands work quickly, no more than necessary. You stare at a crack in the ceiling plaster, counting the seconds. When it's done, you adjust your dress, smoothing the fabric back into place. Well, Dr. Harrison murmurs, scribbling something else. All appears to be in order. Keep doing what you're doing. Thank you, you reply, voice even. He nods toward Cartwright. She's fit for work. Cartwright closes her notebook with a decisive snap. Thank you, doctor. As you step out into the hallway, Mrs. Cartwright murmurs, Send Sarah in next, please. The routine is so familiar, it's almost automatic. As you make your way back toward the kitchen, you feel that strange hollow sensation that always follows. Not because anything bad happened, not because there was pain, but because, for those 10 minutes, you weren't really a person, just a body, checked, measured, passed, or failed. You step back into the warmth of the kitchen. Lily looks up from where she's sitting, cradling a cup of tea. All clear, she asks quietly. You nod. Accepting the mug, Betsy presses into your hands. The tea is strong and sweet, comforting, grounding. Josephine's not so lucky, though. You overheard Mrs. Cartwright earlier. She's being placed on rest. A mild fever, a cough that hasn't shifted. Nothing serious yet, hopefully. But it's a reminder of how thin the line is, how precarious this life always feels. The hallway clock chimes noon. The morning has slipped away. Soon, it will be time for the real work to begin. You sip your tea, slowly, letting the heat seep into your fingers, your chest, your bones. The familiar, mingling scents of bread stew and wood smoke fill the air, grounding you after the cold detachment of the exam. Lily nudges the plate toward you, her voice soft. Go on. There's one bun left. You grin a little, tearing it in half to share with her. The pastry is still warm, dotted with sticky currants, the sugar glaze catching in the kitchen light. It's small moments like this simple, ordinary pleasures that make the rest bearable. The clock chimes again. Noon. The shift begins. The house starts to stir differently now. You can hear footsteps upstairs, the deliberate movements of the girls changing out of their morning clothes into something more fitting for the afternoon's work. More attractive. Still respectable. The real finery is reserved for evening. Mrs. Winters sweeps into the kitchen, her keys jangling against her skirt. Girls, time to get yourselves presentable, she says briskly. Mrs. Cartwright wants everyone ready by 1. She's had 2 messages this morning. Might be a busy afternoon. You exchange a glance with Lily. Afternoon business is usually slower. Bank clerks, merchants, men with extended lunch breaks. Easier work most of the time. More talking. Less expectation. Let's get to it, you say, finishing the last sip of tea. The mug is solid and warm in your hands, but you set it aside, rising from the wooden chair. Upstairs, the energy is different now. Doors stand open. Girls move between rooms, borrowing a hairpin, offering a bit of rouge, helping each other fasten hooks or tie sashes. There's chatter, laughter, the soft clink of perfume bottles and jewelry boxes. You step into your room, closing the door behind you with a click that feels both final and familiar. The transformation begins. First, you strip off the simple wool dress from the morning, folding it carefully and setting it on the chair. Then the corset comes off briefly before you pull on the tighter one designed for shape rather than comfort. You tug the laces yourself. Practiced fingers pulling it snug, not so tight as to cut your breath, but enough to give the fashionable silhouette. The hourglass, the illusion. From the chest, at the foot of your bed, you pull out the blue afternoon dress. Cotton, not silk. Simple, but well fitted, with a slightly lower neckline than you'd wear on the street. The bodice has delicate lace along the collar, just enough to suggest refinement without garishness. Stockings, garters, petticoats, all layered quickly but precisely. Each piece part of the routine, part of the armor. Your hair comes down from its simple knot. You brush it until the dark waves shine, then pin it back into an arrangement that looks effortless but isn't. A few curls left loose to frame your face. Makeup is subtle for daytime. A dusting of rice powder to smooth your complexion. A touch of rouge on the cheeks, blended just so. A bit of color on your lips. Nothing bold. Nothing that would look out of place if someone glanced through the window. And the final step, a dab of lavender water at your wrists, behind your ears, at the hollow of your throat. Clean, fresh, inviting. You check your reflection in the small mirror. There she is. Not the tired seamstress girl from 3 years ago. Not the Mary who woke up in this little room this morning. But the Mary who works here, who knows how to smile just right, how to tilt her head, adjust her voice, meet a man's gaze in a way that makes him feel seen. A knock on the door. Mary, it's Emily's voice. They're here. Cartwright wants you in the parlor. Coming. You call back, smoothing your skirt one last time. The hallway is already alive with movement. You pass Lily, adjusting her hair in the hallway mirror. Sarah, tightening the ribbons on her sleeves, and Josephine, sitting quietly on the top step, watching it all. Still off work, but observing. Learning. You head downstairs. The parlor has changed. The heavy curtains are half drawn now, filtering the daylight to create a softer glow. The fire in the grate crackles warmly, banishing the lingering chill. The polished glasses you handled this morning now sit ready on the sideboard next to the decanter of sherry and a small dish of sugared almonds. Mrs. Cartwright stands by the fireplace, her posture elegant but commanding. Her dark dress is simple but perfectly tailored, her silver hair pinned back in a severe but tasteful style. Two men stand near the window, talking in low voices. Both are well dressed. Mid-40s, perhaps. One with the slight stoop of someone who spends long hours at a desk. The other broader-shouldered, his clothes a little more worn, suggesting a man who works with his hands as much as his head. Cartwright catches your eye and gives the smallest nod, her signal to enter the conversation. "Ah, and here's Mary," now she says smoothly, turning to the men. "Gentlemen, I believe you'll find her company most agreeable." The men turn. You step forward, dipping into a small curtsy. "Good afternoon, sirs." The man with the stoop inclines his head. "Good afternoon." His voice is polite but uncertain, new perhaps, or nervous. "I was just explaining," Cartwright continues, "that we offer both company and conversation. However, the gentlemen prefer to spend their afternoon. Would you care for some sherry, you ask, moving toward the decanter, or something else? We have port as well." "Sherry would be lovely," the broader man answers. As you pour, you study them. The smaller man's cufflinks gleam solid silver. A clerk, possibly a solicitor. His boots are clean, but not new. The larger man has calloused hands, not rough, but worn. A merchant, maybe. Someone who manages others, but isn't afraid to work himself when needed. The ritual continues. Small talk. Light conversation about the weather, the possibility of snow. A comment about the noise from the new railway line. Cartwright stands back, letting you take the lead, now watching like a conductor, ensuring the orchestra stays in tune. "Is this your first visit?" You ask, your tone soft, inviting, but not intrusive. The clerk, whose name turns out to be Mr. Bennett, nods. A colleague recommended the house, spoke highly of the atmosphere. You smile. Mrs. Cartwright prides herself on discretion and comfort, and professionalism. Cartwright adds smoothly from her place by the mantel. The merchant, Mr. Gray, chuckles. "That's clear." Mr. Bennett sips his sherry, eyes scanning the room. He's relaxing now. You can feel it. His shoulders easing. His smile coming a little more naturally. And that's the trick. The first 10 minutes are always about easing nerves, making it feel less like a transaction, more like something else, something gentler, softer. After a few more minutes, Mrs. Cartwright steps forward. "If you'd like to continue your conversations in a more private setting," she offers, "the green room is available." Mr. Bennett glances at Mr. Gray, who nods subtly. "Yes," Bennett says. "Yes, I think that would be agreeable." You smile, rising smoothly. "This way, gentlemen." As you lead them out of the parlor, your posture shifts. Shoulders back, chin lifted just slightly. Every step deliberate, measured. The work begins. The green room is on the first floor, second door to the left. It's not anyone's private bedroom, just one of the shared rooms set aside for daytime visitors. Comfortable, tastefully decorated. A large bed with a carved wooden frame sits against one wall. The linen's crisp, the pillows fluffed. A small fireplace crackles quietly in the corner, casting a warm glow against the dark green wallpaper. The gas lamp is turned low, adding to the softness of the space. You lead Mr. Bennett and Mr. Gray inside, stepping aside as they take in the room. "Please make yourselves comfortable." You say, your voice gentle but practiced. You move toward the side table, where there's already a pitcher of water, clean glasses, and a small dish of sugared almonds, Cartwright's little signature touch. Mr. Gray lowers himself into one of the armchairs by the fire, stretching his legs out comfortably. Mr. Bennet hesitates a moment longer before following suit, perching on the edge of the second chair, fingers loosely wrapped around his sherry glass. You take the third seat, crossing your ankles, neatly folding your hands in your lap. There's a pause. It's always like this, the moment when the customers, even regulars, need to figure out how they want this to go. Do they want conversation? Do they want to skip the pretense? Do they need coaxing or just space? Mr. Gray breaks the silence first. I have to admit, he starts with a slight smile, this isn't something I do often. You smile warmly, lowering your chin slightly. That's perfectly all right. There's no need to rush anything. We're simply here to enjoy the afternoon. Mr. Bennet shifts, clearing his throat. A colleague told me the house was respectable, discreet. Very much so. You nod. Mrs. Cartwright is selective with her clientele. Privacy is always paramount here. That seems to reassure him. His fingers relax slightly around his glass. Mr. Gray leans forward, resting one elbow on his knee. May I ask, how long have you worked here, Mary? Nearly 2 years, you reply truthfully, letting your tone stay open and easy. Long enough to know the rhythms of the house, and to know good company when I meet it. That earns a chuckle from both men. The tension in the room drops another notch. As you often do, you guide the conversation towards safe, pleasant topics. The weather, the new train line being built out toward Cambridge, the growing bustle of the markets now that the holidays are approaching. They respond, tentative at first, but gradually the conversation finds its natural flow. Mr. Bennet, it turns out, has a particular fascination with coin collecting, a fact he shares with an embarrassed laugh, as though expecting you to think it silly. Not silly at all, you say warmly. Do you favor British coins or the exotic kind? His eyes light up. Oh, mostly British, but I've a few Roman pieces. And he pauses, looking sheepish again. One from the Ottoman Empire. A gift from a client. Mr. Gray grins at his friend's enthusiasm. He's modest. His collection's the finest I've seen outside a museum. Impressive. You nod, genuinely meaning it. It must take patience. And a sharp eye. It does, Bennet admits, adjusting his spectacles. You lean in slightly, your posture signaling genuine interest. Is it the history you enjoy, or the chase? A bit of both, he admits, smiling now without reservation. Holding something in your hand that's been touched by people centuries ago. It's humbling, really. The conversation flows easier now. You've done what you're meant to do, turned a nervous stranger into someone comfortable. Seen, heard, the warmth of the fire, the quiet crackle of wood, the soft murmur of voices. It creates a cocoon separate from the noisy gray streets outside. For this hour, the world shrinks to just this room. Eventually, as always, the talk shifts. You feel it like a subtle change in air pressure, the moment when polite conversation turns toward what was always the true purpose of the visit. Mr. Gray leans back, stretching slightly. Well, I believe, Mary, that perhaps we might move on from talk now. You smile softly, rising from your chair in one fluid motion. Of course, there's no awkwardness. You've learned how to make it feel natural, seamless. You guide them gently, unhurried but deliberate. The physical part of this work. It's rarely what people outside imagine, especially with men like these men who don't come here for cruelty or novelty, but for something simpler, a touch, warmth, connection they can't or won't find elsewhere. Mr. Bennet is gentle, awkward at first, but eager to please. Mr. Gray, more confident but considerate. Their requests are simple. No strange games, no roughness. And as always, there's the routine, the practiced movements, the learned responses, the little murmurs, the carefully measured affection that feels real enough in the moment, even if you know better than to mistake it for truth. When it's over, there's no rush to leave. They linger, dressing slowly, sipping the last of the water, adjusting collars and cufflinks. Mr. Gray reaches into his coat, pulling out a small handful of coins beyond the agreed fee. A tip. He presses it into your hand with a smile that's almost shy. For your kindness, he says simply. Thank you, you reply, voice warm but neutral. Not false. Not entirely. As you lead them back downstairs, Mrs. Winters materializes as if summoned by instinct. She takes over her manner polite but efficient. Gentlemen, this way, she says, guiding them toward the front hall, ensuring they leave quietly properly, making sure that no one crosses paths with another client. Cartwright's house runs on order, on the maintenance of illusions. You watch from the foot of the stairs as the front door closes behind them, the latch clicking softly. Another hour, another pair of names, another entry in Cartwright's ledger. You breathe out slowly, shoulders relaxing. It's always like this, the gentle oscillation between performance and stillness, between the roles you play and the quiet spaces in between them. You head back upstairs to the green room. The work isn't finished yet. There's the cleanup, the changing of linens, the refilling of water pitchers, the straightening of pillows. No one sees this part, but it's part of the job just as much as anything else. You strip the bed quickly, bundling the used sheets for laundry. A fresh set goes on crisp, cool, smooth beneath your hands. You tidy the fireplace brush, stray ashes back into place, fold the worn but clean blanket over the foot of the bed. Your movements are steady, controlled, automatic, hands working while your mind drifts. When everything is back in order, you pause, just for a moment, standing there in the quiet, feeling the warmth of the fire on your face, listening to the muffled sounds of the house, the soft voices from the kitchen, the distant creak of floorboards, breathing in, out, calm, centered, ready for whatever and whoever comes next. You step back into the hallway, quietly pulling the green room door closed behind you. Another room reset, another name filed away in the mental ledger you keep alongside Mrs. Cartwright's official one. Downstairs, you can already hear the faint sound of the front door opening again, another visitor arriving. Business is steady today. You smooth your skirt, fingers brushing over the fabric as if wiping away the memory of the last hour. Then, without needing to think, your body turns toward the staircase, carrying you back down to the parlor, the heart of the house. As you descend, you catch Lily's voice floating up from below. Light, playful, laced with practiced laughter. She's entertaining someone already. You hear the clink of a glass being set on the side table, the muted murmur of a man responding. You can't hear the words, but the tone is unmistakable, nervous, eager, and already halfway convinced of the story you all sell here. Not the explicit one, but the deeper, unspoken fiction. That he is special. That he is wanted. That in this room, in this house, he is something more than what the world out there says he is. When you reach the parlor, you spot Sarah by the window. Her burgundy dress is immaculate, and she's deep in conversation with an older gentleman, nodding thoughtfully as he speaks about something, probably his investments or his nephew's school prospects. Sarah's good at that, listening, making them feel wise, important, the kind of attention many of these men don't get anywhere else. Emily sits on the fainting couch near the fireplace, one leg tucked under her, sipping tea with a younger client who looks barely out of university. His posture screams first-timer, nervous, twitchy, one hand constantly smoothing his jacket sleeve. You glance around, scanning for Mrs. Cartwright. She's not in the room, likely in her office, finalizing arrangements for whoever just arrived. Mary Lily calls softly, catching your eye from across the room. She nods subtly toward the door. Cartwright's asking for you. Thank you, you murmur, pivoting smoothly and heading toward the familiar, dark oak door that leads to the office. Inside, Mrs. Cartwright sits behind her polished desk, a ledger open in front of her. Her silver hair is pulled back tight, her hands folded neatly atop the open book. Seated across from her is a man late 30s, perhaps 40, well-groomed. His dark suit is expensive, but understated, the cut impeccable. A man who knows money, who lives in a world where appearances matter. His eyes meet yours as you enter, gray, sharp, assessing. Not unkind, but measured. The kind of gaze that catalogs everything and files it neatly away. Mary Cartwright says smoothly, gesturing toward the man, "This is Mr. Whitaker. Mr. Whitaker, may I present Mary?" You offer a small, polite curtsy. "A pleasure, sir." "The pleasure's mine," he replies, his voice deep but even. No nervousness here, no hesitation. This is a man who walks into any room and assumes it will arrange itself to suit him. Cartwright continues, her tone professional, but edged with the kind of subtle suggestion that only experience can deliver. Mr. Whitaker is visiting for the first time, but comes highly recommended by one of our most respected clients. She glances at you meaningfully. It's the signal. This is someone important, someone whose experience here needs to be flawless. "I trust you'll make him feel welcome," she adds. Of course, you nod, shifting your gaze back to Mr. Whitaker. "Would you care for the parlor, or would you prefer something more private?" He considers this for only a second, before standing, smoothing his jacket. "Private, I think." "Right this way," you say, offering him the smallest smile, perfectly calibrated, warm, but not too familiar. As you lead him toward the staircase, you're acutely aware of the weight of Cartwright's gaze following you. This is one of those clients, the kind whose opinion shapes more than just his own future visits. His experience could lead to introductions, referrals, or the opposite. Your steps are graceful, deliberate, each movement controlled. You lead him not to the green room this time, but to the blue room on the second floor, a space reserved for the best clients. The bed is larger, the sheets softer, the fireplace already lit. You step aside as he enters, letting him take in the room. "Please make yourself comfortable." He does, setting his hat and gloves neatly on the dresser, then turning back to face you fully. "You've been here long?" he asks, hands sliding casually into his pockets. "Coming up on 2 years," you reply, folding your hands loosely in front of you. "I suppose that makes me part of the furniture." That earns a small smile from him. "I imagine the furniture here has many stories." "Quite a few," you agree lightly, "some more entertaining than others." There's a pause, not awkward, but intentional. Controlled silence. A test of sorts, seeing if you'll rush to fill it. You don't. You've learned better. Finally, he steps forward, his gaze thoughtful. "I won't pretend I don't know how this works, but I find myself curious. You tilt your head slightly, letting the smile play at the edges of your mouth. "About you," he says simply. "Not the presentation. The person." It's a line you've heard before. Often it's just part of the game. Men like to believe there's something special between you, something real. But something in his tone, it's not quite the same. Less performance, more genuine curiosity. You choose your response carefully. "Most gentlemen don't ask." "I'm not most," he replies. You gesture toward the settee near the window. "Would you like to sit?" He nods. "I would." You cross the room, together taking the settee while he chooses the nearby chair. The fire crackles softly, filling the room with gentle warmth. Outside the window, the sky has shifted a cold, pale gray, threatening snow before sundown. You fold your hands in your lap, letting your posture relax just slightly. What is it you want to know, Mr. Whitaker? He leans forward, elbows resting on his knees. How does a woman like you come to be in a place like this? You exhale slowly, not because the question surprises you, it never does, but because of the way he asks it. Not accusatory, not laced with pity, just direct, honest. I was a seamstress, you say simply. Worked 16 hours a day for starvation wages. Eyes ruined by bad light. Fingers bleeding from needle pricks in winter. And even then, I could barely keep a roof over my head. You meet his gaze steady, unflinching. This pays better, you continue. The hours are shorter, the conditions warmer, and no one pretends I don't exist. For a moment, there's only the sound of the fire, the quiet hush of the city outside. He nods, slowly, a rational choice, a necessary one, you correct softly. There's something about this conversation, an edge of sharpness beneath the polite civility. Two people, from opposite sides of London's invisible walls, sitting together in this strange shared space where all the rules shift. I admire that, he says at last. The clarity. You smile, letting it soften you. Clarity is useful in this life. Another pause. Then his expression shifts slightly. Tell me something. Do you ever regret it? You consider that. Some days, you answer honestly. But then I remember what regret doesn't buy. It doesn't buy coal for the fire, or bread for the table, or safety. He leans back, nodding again, almost to himself. Fair point. The conversation lingers in that space, half real, half performative, but somehow less of a transaction than most. Eventually, as always, the shift happens. The talk slows. The glances change. The physical act that was always implied becomes reality. But even as you move through the practiced motions, the well-worn steps of this dance, something about the conversation lingers. An odd thread, woven into the usual fabric of the day. When it's over, Mr. Whitaker dresses with care, smooths his jacket, adjusts his cufflinks. He steps close, offering not a handful of coins, but a neatly folded note, more than you expected. For your time, he says simply. And your clarity. You accept it with a nod. Thank you. As you walk him back downstairs, neither of you speaks much, but the silence feels companionable, not strained. At the front door, Mrs. Winters is waiting as always. She handles the departure, ensuring everything is discreet, polished, professional. You watch Mr. Whitaker step out into the cold, gray afternoon, the door clicking softly shut behind him. For a long moment, you just stand there, breathing, feeling the quiet hum of the house around you, the footsteps upstairs, the low murmur of voices in the parlor, the steady rhythm of a world that continues hour after hour, name after name. Then you turn, shoulders back, chin lifted, and step back into the rhythm of the day. The hallway feels warmer when you step away from the door, the fire in the parlor spilling light and heat into the space beyond. Voices drift out, Emily's soft and musical as she laughs at something, and the lower rumble of a client whose name you don't yet know. Another transaction, another performance underway. You smooth your skirt without thinking, fingers gliding over the fabric, then head back toward the kitchen. The clink of dishes, the familiar murmur of cook scolding Betsy for something minor, those sounds are a comfort in their own way. The constant pulse beneath everything. In the kitchen, you find Lily seated at the long wooden table, sipping a mug of tea, her green silk gown slightly rumpled, a sign she's been busy already. She looks up as you enter, tipping her head toward the kettle. It's fresh, she offers. God bless you, you say, with a tired smile, pouring yourself a cup. The heat from the ceramic seeps into your hands, and you hold it there for a moment before taking a sip. "How was yours?" Lily asks, raising one eyebrow. "Interesting," you say, sliding into the seat opposite her. "New client. Quiet. Observant." "Quiet's not the worst." Lily smirks, wrapping her hands around her mug. "Mine wouldn't shut up. Full hour talking about his import business. Something about barrels of whale oil. I swear I learned more about maritime trade routes than I ever cared to." You chuckle softly, leaning your elbow on the table. "Was it at least worth it?" "Decent tip," she admits, "and no complaints about the service." She wiggles her eyebrows. "That's all that matters." The two of you fall into an easy rhythm of conversation, the shorthand of women who've lived this life long enough to not need to explain much. Betsy moves around in the background, wiping the counters, humming softly as she works. "I heard Cook grumbling earlier," Lily says, lowering her voice slightly. Winters told her there might be a late group. Men from some gentleman's club. Supposed to be half a dozen. You groan softly. "That'll be a long night." "Long, but profitable." Lily sips her tea, assuming they're not the drunk, grabby sort. "You know they always are." "True." The house has its patterns. Quiet afternoons like this one, filled with regulars or newcomers testing the waters. Evenings when the real business happens. And then sometimes those unpredictable nights when a group shows up, rowdy flushed, with drink and money, and the false importance that comes from being in the company of other men. You drain the last of your tea and set the mug down. "I should check the parlor, see if Cartwright needs anything." Lily nods. "I'll be up soon." Changing for evening. Back through the hallway, you pause just outside the parlor, listening. The sounds are familiar. Emily's voice again, still smooth and light. A laugh hers, this time genuine or not. It's impossible to tell. Footsteps upstairs, the creak of a floorboard. A faint knock at the front door. Mrs. Winters opens it, her keys jangling softly. You peek around the edge of the doorway in time to see a man step inside. Mid-50s, balding, his coat dusted with the damp chill from outside. "Mr. Harrington?" Mrs. Winters greets him, her tone clipped, but polite. "Right on time." "Of course," he replies, shrugging off his coat. "I wouldn't dream of being late." You recognize the name immediately. Mr. Harrington's a regular. Comes once a month like clockwork. Never drinks. Rarely talks. Pays well. Never causes trouble. Cartwright likes him. You do too, for that matter. Predictability is a kind of kindness in this business. Cartwright herself steps out of her office, smoothing her skirts. "Mr. Harrington, lovely to see you." "And you," he replies with a nod. Her gaze shifts to you. "Mary, if you're free." "I am," you say, smoothly stepping forward. Harrington offers a small, polite nod. "Shall we?" "Of course. This way." You lead him upstairs, feet falling into the familiar rhythm. Harrington always prefers the blue room. Likes the quiet, likes the privacy, likes to pretend, for the space of an hour, that this is something else entirely. Not a transaction. Something softer. Inside the room, the fire is burning low. You move to stoke it, adding a fresh log, while Harrington removes his gloves with careful, deliberate motions. "Cold out there," you ask, making small talk as you straighten the pillows on the settee. "Snow. By morning," they say, he replies, settling into the chair nearest the fire. "The city will be a mess." "Always is." You agree, smoothing your skirt as you take the chair opposite him. As always, Harrington doesn't rush. He never does. The first 20 minutes are spent in quiet conversation. He asks about the house, about the girls. Never anything too personal, never anything too invasive. Just gentle curiosity, polite inquiries. the way one might chat with a shopkeeper or a neighbor. You offer him tea, he always accepts, but never anything stronger. No sherry, no brandy. Harrington doesn't drink. As you pour, his gaze lingers, not leering, not crude, just watching, taking you in. You've seen that look before. Men like Harrington aren't here for scandal or debauchery. They're here because somewhere in their real lives, something is missing or broken. You seem tired, he says after a while. You chuckle softly. Busy day? Too busy. Never too busy, you reply with a smile. Not for you. That pleases him. It always does. Eventually, the conversation shifts, as it always does, from words to something else. Something quieter. Something wordless. Harrington likes to be held. That's it. Nothing else. No undressing. No demands. He removes his shoes, stretches out on the bed, and you lie beside him, fully clothed, arms wrapped around him like a lover or a wife or someone else. You've never asked. He doesn't talk during this part. Neither do you. The fire crackles. The wind rattles against the window. The sounds of the house fade until it feels like just the two of you, adrift in a tiny warm world. His breathing slows, deepens. You feel the rise and fall of his chest against yours. The tension leaves his body melting away like wax beneath a flame. And for a while, there is only this: quiet, warmth, the illusion of comfort, the illusion of safety. When the clock chimes the hour, he stirs, slowly, regretfully. Thank you, he murmurs, sitting up, adjusting his cuffs. It's always a pleasure, Mr. Harrington. He leaves a folded note on the side table, always the same amount, always generous. Until next time. Until next time, you echo, softly rising to see him out. Downstairs, Mrs. Winters is waiting as ever. She handles the departure, her expression unreadable, her hands folded neatly in front of her. As the front door closes, you stand for a moment in the hallway, listening to the fire in the parlor, the muffled laughter from upstairs, the distant roll of carriage wheels on wet cobblestones, breathing in, out. The evening has only just begun. You linger for a breath longer in the hallway, letting the quiet settle over you like a shawl. Then your body remembers its rhythm, the constant forward motion this life demands. You turn, smoothing your skirt as you head back toward the parlor. The atmosphere has shifted now. Evening has fully arrived. The gas lamps have been turned higher, filling the room with a warm, flattering glow. The curtains are drawn against the cold and the gathering snow beyond. The fire in the grate burns brighter, crackling softly beneath the hum of conversation and the gentle clink of glassware. Emily is seated on the settee, laughing lightly at something a client has just said. Her silk dress catches the lamplight, the pale green shimmering like water. Next to her, Mr. Lawrence, an older regular, whose hands tremble slightly with age, grins in response, clearly enjoying the attention. At the far end of the room, Sarah is engaged in quiet conversation with a man you don't recognize. Mid-30s, handsome, in that solid, respectable way. His coat and boots still dusted with snow, as though he's only just stepped in from the street. Lily glances up from her spot near the fireplace as you enter. Her hair is arranged in soft curls that catch the firelight, and her dress, a deep emerald that flatters her pale skin, makes her look every bit the part of someone from a painting. She raises her eyebrows in silent question. You give a slight nod in return. It's going to be one of those nights. Steady. Busy. But manageable. Mrs. Cartwright appears in the doorway, as composed as ever. Her dark dress moves like water around her as she steps into the parlor, surveying the scene. Ladies, she says, with that subtle edge of authority that means everyone listens, whether client or girl. A carriage just arrived from the George. 3 gentlemen, possibly 4. From the club dinner. A ripple moves through the room. Even the clients pause, exchanging knowing looks. They've requested the parlor for now. They may make private arrangements after. Cartwright's gaze sweeps over you, Lily, Sarah, and Emily in turn. I expect everyone at their best. You exchange another glance with Lily. She murmurs, "Brace yourself." The front door opens. You hear laughter, loud booming already tinged with drink. The sound of heavy boots against the floorboards. The rattle of a walking stick. The first man steps into view. Large, well-fed. His waistcoat strained slightly over his belly. Red-faced from the cold or the brandy already in him. Behind him, two others younger, but no less flushed, crowd into the entryway, shaking snow from their hats and coats. Mrs. Winters takes their belongings with her usual cool efficiency, offering no more than the minimal, polite greetings. She knows her role. Cartwright steps forward, hands clasped. "Gentlemen, welcome." Cartwright bellows the first man with a grin. "As lovely as ever. Please come through." She gestures smoothly toward the parlor. "I believe you'll find the company agreeable." The men spill into the room, like a gust of cold wind, and laughter voices rising in overlapping greetings, jokes, and commentary. You straighten your shoulders as one of them, tall, sandy-haired, younger than the others, fixes his gaze on you almost immediately. "Well now," he says, smiling broadly. "Aren't you something?" "Good evening, sir," you reply, dipping into a shallow curtsy. "Welcome." Mrs. Cartwright quickly steps into her usual role as orchestrator of this particular dance. With practiced grace, she steers the men toward the sideboard, where the sherry and brandy wait, guiding them to sit, to laugh, to relax. The clients are divided quickly, the pairs forming almost naturally. Lily ends up beside the sandy-haired one, her laughter already mingling with his as he tries somewhat sloppily to impress her with a story about a horse race. You find yourself seated beside the larger man, the one who first came through the door. Mr. Walters. You gather from his companion's greeting. He smells strongly of cigars and expensive cologne, but there's no roughness in his manner. He's loud, but not cruel. One of those men who simply likes to hold court, to be the center of attention. "And you miss," he says, leaning toward you with a grin. "Tell me, are you as clever as you are pretty?" You smile just enough. "I've been told I have my moments." He roars with laughter, slapping his thigh. "I like this one." Conversation flows. Like the brandy. Easy, a little messy at the edges, but not yet unruly. The men talk among themselves as much as with you and the other girls about stocks, about politics, about a scandal involving a mutual acquaintance who was caught in some indiscretion with a French actress. You nod, laugh when appropriate, offer the right comments at the right times. You've done this before, many times, yet despite the noise, despite the show, there's always a rhythm, a pulse. The men are here for attention, yes, for conversation, for laughter, for the pretense that they are charming, powerful, desired, and eventually for more. As the evening wears on, the mood shifts predictably. The laughter grows looser. The space between jokes narrows. Hands begin to linger longer on arms. Glances change, growing heavier. The men glance toward Cartwright, toward the stairs, toward the closed doors that lead to the private rooms. Mrs. Cartwright stands smoothing her skirts, her voice rising just enough to be heard clearly without breaking the illusion of casual conversation. "Gentlemen," she says, smiling warmly, "if any of you would prefer more private company, the rooms are ready. That's the cue." Mr. Walters grins at you. "Shall we?" "Of course," you reply, rising smoothly, offering your hand. "This way." You lead him upstairs. Footsteps, familiar muscles, moving easily despite the long day. This is what you know, what you do, what you are good at. The blue room again, the fire still warm from earlier. You move through the motions, offering water, adjusting the pillows, turning up the gas lamp just slightly to soften the shadows without washing out the room. Mr. Walters sinks onto the settee, exhaling heavily, pulling a cigar from his pocket, but not lighting it. You know, he says, watching you with a grin, it's funny. All those people out there thinking they know how the world works. And here we are. You agree. Your smile soft but knowing. He pats the cushion beside him. Come here, girl. Let's enjoy the evening. And so it begins again. The familiar rhythm, the practiced intimacy, the carefully maintained illusion that for the next hour, this is exactly where you both are meant to be. The blue room feels warmer now, the fire crackling louder as the cold deepens outside. Snow taps gently against the window pane, soft and rhythmic, like nature's own metronome, ticking away the minutes of this endless city night. You move toward the settee, letting your body shift back into the role the evening requires. Shoulders relaxed, but poised chin tilted just so, hands smoothing the folds of your skirt without thinking. It's muscle memory now, this performance. This dance. Mr. Walters leans back, legs stretched out, watching you with the lazy confidence of a man who believes the world was built for his convenience. But there's no menace in him, not tonight. Just the heavy satisfaction of too much brandy, too much food, and the comfort of knowing his coin opens any door he chooses. Do you ever think, he begins, voice low and half slurred, how strange it is? All of us, playing our little roles. You smile, I pay, and we both pretend we're getting what we want. You tilt your head, letting the smallest smile play at the corner of your lips. Isn't that what most of life is, Mr. Walters? He chuckles, a deep rumble from his chest. Suppose it is. Suppose it is. He pats the seat beside him again, and you settle next to him close, but not crowding. His arm drapes over your shoulders, heavy but not unwelcome. His body radiates heat mingling with the fire's warmth. For a few minutes, he just talks. About his business. About his horse that lost a race last month. About a nephew too foolish to stay out of gambling debt. None of it matters. None of it is meant to. It's the noise men make when they want to forget that the world outside these walls keeps spinning without them. Eventually, the conversation fades as it always does. His words slow, trailing into comfortable silence. His hand strokes your shoulder absently, the motion less about desire now and more about comfort, or maybe loneliness. It's always hard to tell. When the hour is nearly done, he shifts, pulling a coin pouch from his coat, pressing it into your hand without ceremony. For you, girl. And the house, of course. Thank you, you reply softly, fingers closing around the weight of it. Heavy, generous. You're a good girl, he mumbles. Already rising, straightening his coat. Damn good. You stand, as well smoothing your dress, adjusting a curl that's fallen loose from its pins. I'm glad to hear it. Together you descend the stairs, your steps echoing in the now quiet hallway. The parlor is emptier now. The earlier crowd thinned, the last of the club men either departed or tucked away upstairs. Mrs. Winters waits at the door as always. Her presence, a steady anchor in the constant flow of comings and goings. Good evening, Mr. Walters, she says, with her usual clipped politeness, holding his coat open. Evenin', Winters. He slips his arms into the sleeves, pulling the collar up against the cold. Pass my regards to Cartwright, of course. With a final nod to you, he steps out into the snow. The door closes softly behind him, muffling the sounds of the street. Just like that, the world shrinks back to the quiet pulse of the house. You exhale, shoulders sinking slightly. Another hour done. Another customer gone. You glance toward the kitchen, considering whether to grab a quick cup of tea, but before you can move, Cartwright's voice calls softly from the parlor doorway. Mary, a word. You turn nodding, of course. Inside, the fire has burned low, the last few embers glowing faintly beneath the soft hiss of the gas lamps. Cartwright stands near the mantel, her arms folded not stern, but thoughtful. Sit, she gestures to one of the armchairs. You do, smoothing your skirts as you lower yourself into the seat. She watches you for a long moment, then nods slightly as though confirming something to herself. You've done well tonight. With Whitaker, with Walters. You handled them both exactly right. Thank you, you reply. Unsure where this is going? I've had a letter, she says, moving toward her desk. From a potential investor. Someone looking to partner. Expand. Your brow lifts slightly. Expansion isn't something Cartwright often talks about. He's been discreet, she continues, but generous and cautious. He asked for recommendations on the staff, on the girls most capable, most reliable. There's a pause, and I gave him your name. You blink. Me. She smiles slightly. Don't look so surprised. You've been here 2 years. You've built a reputation. Among the men and among the girls. You're steady, professional, reliable. You absorb that, unsure how to respond. Now, Cartwright continues, this isn't a certainty yet, but if it happens, there'll be opportunity, a position for someone to help manage, train new girls, keep the house running smooth. Your heart stutters in your chest. A promotion, a shift from the rooms to the office, from performer to manager. I don't know what to say. Don't say anything yet, she replies, waving it off. Just consider it. I won't pretend it's easy. It's different work, but safer, more stable, less, she gestures vaguely, less of the other. You nod, fingers curling into your lap. I'll think about it. Good girl, she says, already turning back to her desk, her tone shifting back to brisk professionalism. Off you go then. The night's not done yet. You rise, smoothing your skirt once more, the familiar motion grounding you. As you leave the parlor, the warmth of the fire follows you out, mingling with the quieter energy that has settled over the house. The hallway feels still now. Upstairs, you can hear footsteps, someone moving between rooms. Below, the faint clatter of cook preparing for the last meal of the night. Betsy's voice soft but cheerful, humming as she scrubs something in the scullery. You pause at the bottom of the stairs, resting one hand lightly on the polished banister. For a moment, you just breathe. In, out. The snow continues to fall beyond the window, soft and steady, blanketing the street in a clean white silence that feels almost gentle. You tilt your head back slightly, letting your eyes close. You're still here, still standing, still breathing, and somehow, in this strange, narrow little life that feels like something close to victory, you open your eyes, straighten your shoulders, and step forward into whatever comes next.